Hey guys and gals, it's me Nalthazar, or you can just call me Michael. And today I thought it would be good to make a video about how to get started in Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest if you're new to the game, or if you've been playing for just a little while but you're not really sure what direction to take to develop in the game. This will also be helpful for you. So hopefully you learn something from this and it helps you out. So I'm going to break it down into the resources that you have, the planeswalkers you can get, and the cards you can get. So you can see at the top of my screen right now, there's one of the resources I have 1,063,047 of. Those are mana runes. Those are what you're going to use to level up your planeswalkers. There's the resource that I have 27 of at the top with the purple crystal. Those are what were formerly known as unobtainium, but we now call, mana crystals? Something like that? Or maybe the yellow ones are mana crystals? Anyways, I call them pinkies. So, pinkies, those are what are going to let you get guaranteed non-duplicate mythics, or potentially duplicate vanguards. And then on the far right, you see that there's that 1,861, and that represents, I guess that's mana crystals. I just call them yellow crystals. And those are what you're going to use to be buying planeswalkers and cards. So let's get into the planeswalkers. If you're just starting out, you're probably going to be starved for mana runes at the beginning. But as you play more and as you rise in the ranks, so from bronze to silver to gold to platinum, you'll find that events give very healthy amounts of mana runes now. So you shouldn't have too much difficulty if you're playing pretty consistently to max out your planeswalkers. That being said, if you don't already have a collection of planeswalkers, there's a very important distinction between monocolored planeswalkers, dual-colored planeswalkers, tri-colored planeswalkers, and the colorless or potentially 5-colored planeswalkers. So monocolored planeswalkers are only going to cost you 80,000 mana runes to get to level 60. Dual-colored planeswalkers, so here's monocolored for example, Elspeth, just white. Dual-colored would be something like Dovin Bond here. He's white and blue. He's going to cost you 160,000 to power up. And then you've got the tri-colored planeswalkers and the colorless planeswalkers. So an example of a tri-colored planeswalker here is Nicole Bolas, God Pharaoh. He's going to cost you 320,000 mana runes to level up to 60. And the same will be true for the colorless ones like Karn, Scion of Urza. Now, the tricolored planeswalkers are, without really too much argument, the best planeswalkers in the game for pretty much all content. Karn, you can argue, is a top or the top planeswalker for many PvE events, so where you're fighting against computer-made decks. But for the most part, the tri-colored planeswalkers are the most powerful walkers because they allow you to use the most different types of cards, and many of them have very strong abilities. That being said, I wouldn't actually recommend going out and getting, for example, Nicole Bolas the Ravager, who I personally feel is the strongest planeswalker in the game at this moment in time. I wouldn't suggest getting him first because that 320,000 mana runes to level him up to 60 is very hefty. Now, I'm throwing around this number, level 60. Level 60 is the max level you can get a planeswalker to, and I feel like it's worth it to get all of your planeswalkers to that level. You should try and get them all there. Now, at the beginning, it's okay if you bring your planeswalkers up to level 26. Most planeswalkers have decent mana boosts and ability boosts by level 26, so you can get away with having them there for PvP events. I liked having mine at 26 and 40 before I got them ultimately up to 60 for PvP events. But if you want to be successful in PvE events, you're probably going to want to have them at level 60. So, given that I'm not suggesting you get these super powerful tri-colored walkers at first, what would I suggest? Well, there are a few dual-colored walkers that serve pretty much the same purpose as many of the tri-colored walkers, and there are even some monocolored walkers that you can get away with that are incredibly strong, both for standard and for legacy. So let's take a quick look at some of those. I'm scrolling all the way to the bottom. The first one is Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Teferi is an excellent planeswalker, one of the best in the game for sure. He'd be in my very top tier of Planeswalkers. If you look at his abilities and the mana bonuses are at the bottom. His abilities are all pretty decent, but his third ability, Plane in Chaos, I'm going to highlight that Major Zalfir's Fate, is absurdly powerful. So once you get that down, you can run pretty much common and uncommon card draw and lock your opponent down. So if you can get that third ability down, you can win most matches. It's very strong. There are very strong white and blue uncommons in the game that you can use. So, and even some rares for that matter, but Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, would be one of the first Planeswalkers I would suggest getting. In addition to Teferi, I would suggest getting Kiora, Master of the Depths. Kiora is another one of the Planeswalkers that's one of the strongest. You'll see that her mana bonuses aren't particularly great, but what she is lacking in mana bonuses, she makes up in abilities. So that first ability drains mana and gives you mana, which can be nice in a pinch if you need mana. Her second ability, fetching creatures and giving the mana, is fantastic. If you have a decent mana scale for your deck, you basically just get free creatures, so that's really good. And finally, that third ability, if you save up to 24, it gets you up to a 32/32 reach trample token. And that's going to block out and then ultimately kill your opponent's stuff pretty quickly. So really good. And another great thing about her is that there are a lot of good common and uncommon blue, like we mentioned, but there are also some pretty good green ones. Green actually has quite a few really decent rare cards, especially from earlier sets, like, say, Origins, but we'll get to Origins in a minute. And so Kiora would be another one. Now, why am I suggesting Teferi and Kiora? Well, the total mana rune cost to power both of them up is going to be 320,000, which is exactly the number that it would cost you for one of those tricolored walkers. And Kiora is really going to do most of what you would want that Sarkhan is going to do for you. And Teferi is really going to do most of what you'd want that Tamiyo is going to do for you. So Tamiyo is a little bit better, Sarkhan is a little bit better, but not a whole lot. So if you're trying to crunch your resources, definitely would suggest those other two. Another factor in getting Kiora and Teferi is that they cost 650 mana crystals, which is expensive for sure, but is a lot cheaper than the 850 cost of the tricolored walkers, which is very expensive. So now that I've looked at the dual colored walkers, let's take a look at some single colored walkers that are really good at the beginning and really easy to build around. So my very favorite is Koth of the Hammer. Koth has probably the best synergy between his abilities in the game. Koth is amazing. You want to level up Koth as much as you can. That +9 to red is the singular largest mana bonus in the game. And what's so great about Koth is with that first ability to destroy 12 non-red gems, it's really easy to make red matches, which means that you can use higher mana cost cards in Koth than you can use in a lot of other decks, which is really, really useful. So that ability is really nice. It only costs 6. It winds up refreshing itself a lot of the time. That third ability that makes it so that your creatures get boosted whenever you make a red match also synergizes with that ability, and you can use the second one in a pinch to wipe your opponent's creatures. One of the other really nice things about a Planeswalker like Koth is monocolored Planeswalkers are only going to cost you 295 mana crystals to purchase, as compared to 650 for duals and 850 for tricolors. And they only cost you 80,000 to level up, whereas you're looking at 160 and 320,000 for dual and tricolors respectively. So it's really nice to have, and there aren't very many red Planeswalkers apart from the tricolored ones that are that good. So Koth is an excellent one to get. Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, was actually the Planeswalker that I rode all the way up until I had access to the better Planeswalkers, and my usage of Jace is actually ultimately what helped me land a place in one of the top 10 coalitions in the world. So Jace is really good because of his third ability. Whenever you draw a card, each creature you control gets +4/+4. That's a permanent +4/+4 buff each time you draw a card. And there's just so many blue cards that help you draw cards. I mean, this game is very generous in card advantage cards. So Jace Unraveler of Secrets is going to let you buff up your creatures so much more than you will be able to do with any other Planeswalker with a limited collection, that I would very strongly advise that when you have the opportunity to get Jace, get Jace. He's really, really good. The other Jaces, not so good. Don't touch them. They're bad. But this Jace, very good. You definitely want to power him up to 60, and he can be a Planeswalker that you can use in PvE events. Like Koth, he's only going to cost 295 mana crystals, and on top of costing the 295 mana crystals, he's going to cost 80,000 to level up to 60. He's very, very good. I would say that he's gotten some of the most miles of any of my Planeswalkers. Now this one might come as a little bit of a surprise. She's one of the starting Planeswalkers, so she's only going to cost you 50 mana crystals to buy. She still costs 80,000 to get to 60. Her mana bonuses aren't particularly great, but ooh, low power, hooray! Her first ability is incredibly strong. So you discard the last two of your hand, your opponent discards the first and last. You use that to drain all the mana from your opponent's first card, and they lose cards. And while you're losing your cards, and you're stealing your opponent's stuff, you also get to use that Raise Dead eventually at the bottom. It only costs 15 at 60, and you're going to return your creatures to the battlefield. So she's just fantastic for locking things down, and then for swinging momentum your way. So I really like Liliana, Defiant Necromancer. Of the starter Planeswalkers, I would argue that she is the best. So that gets you a red Planeswalker, it gets you a black Planeswalker, it gets you a blue Planeswalker with Teferi, it gets you a white Planeswalker with Kiora, it gets you a green Planeswalker, and that is all 5 Planeswalker colors. And so once you have those, you're really good to just try and work your way to getting the 3 colored walkers. Now, there are some other special shout-outs. Rawl, Izzet Viceroy, is an incredibly good Planeswalker, but he really shines when you have a larger collection. That being said, he's very good, so if you decide to get him early, I really can't argue with that choice. Whatever you do, don't get Sorin, he's garbage. I know that I might get a little bit of flack for that, but probably not much, because look at him, he's got 82 health. You look at the Planeswalkers around him, look, right there, right above him. Saheeli is level 40 and has more health than level 60 Sorin. He's trash. So that's my rundown on the Planeswalkers. Obviously, there are other good Planeswalker choices, and I like a lot of the different Planeswalkers that I haven't mentioned, but that's just my suggestion for you getting started. Now for cards. Now you go to the vault, and you see that there are all of these different card sets. There are these Elite Collection things. What should you buy? The answer is pretty simple. If you're just getting started, get Origins. All of the Origins. Max out Origins. So Origins you can use in Standard, Origins you can use in Legacy. You will always be able to use Origins in Standard, you will always be able to use Origins in Legacy. And so as the different formats change around, you can always use all of these cards. And one of the really nice things about Origins is that while there aren't too many cards that stand out as being like, oh my gosh, this thing is broken, there are a lot of really good cards that have withstood the test of time, that get used a lot. So, Avaricious Dragon is an incredibly strong card. Very scary. You got to get rid of it immediately. Day's Undoing is fantastic for drawing and just swinging momentum your way. Gaia's Revenge is still one of the strongest green creatures in the game. Hixis is one of the best lockdown cards you can get in the game. Infinite Obliteration is a royal pain to go up against and is fantastic for maintaining tempo, especially with Liliana 1, if you chose to get her. Nissa's Revelation remains one of the only consistent cards that will draw you cards for green, so very good card. Pyromancer's Goggles, these get a lot better when your collection gets bigger and you have nastier spells, but they're very good. Starfield of Nyx gives you recursion with your supports in ways that is entirely unfair. The Great Aurora, I love this. I know that a lot of people aren't particularly fond of board wipes, but this basically ensures that you're going to win games that you should not. Very useful. Thopter Spy Network. You get 4 Thopters every turn. Really strong. Very useful. Even still. Woodland Bellower, especially at the lower levels, is really great in that it's going to fetch you creatures and give them mana, so it lets you build tempo pretty quickly. And that's not even getting into the rares and the uncommons and all of that. So there are a lot of great cards in Origins. Go ahead and get it. It's going to cost you the fewest resources. You'll see that Origins costs 280 with a VIP 270, whereas the newest set is going to cost you 320 or with VIP 300. So focus on Origins. Now, you might say, hey, well, I've already actually got some Origins. I've got a fair amount of it. So should I just keep buying it and ignore the newest sets? No. So whenever a new set comes out, there's a 1-month window where that set gives 1.5 times the mana runes and the booster crafting orbs. When it's in that phase, you want to make sure that you get as much of the new set as possible. That's going to enable you to collect many of the new cards, which will let you compete in new events, and it will also build up your collection of mana runes and booster crafting orbs. Booster crafting orbs are particularly useful because they let you craft guaranteed non-duplicate cards. You can craft commons, uncommons, rares, mythics, or if you choose to go through the paywall and get your VIP boosted 6 times, you can craft masterpieces also. So this is particularly useful because any chance you have to get a non-duplicate card is great. I would suggest you just save all of your orbs to craft mythics. And my suggestion is, you guessed it, Origins, because it only costs 3,000 per mythic. Whereas if you look at any other standard set, it's 5,000. And with the most recent set, 7,500. So Origins is the way to go until you fill it out. Now, that's really going to do it for which sort of cards you should focus on. Now let's take a look at the pinkies. The pinkies are what are going to let you buy these new support things that they made called Vanguards. If you do not have a big collection, you don't have basically all of War of the Spark, do not buy the Vanguards right now. They're not guaranteed to be non-duplicate, A. You get Ugin for free, B. And so you could potentially just get a duplicate Ugin. And C, they aren't quite as powerful as many of the other mythics in the game, so just get mythics. Now that brings you to the Elite Collection. With the Elite Collection, what you're going to want to do is find an Elite Collection where you're buying just, I'll pop it up right now, just these Mythic Plus packs on the right. The Rare Plus packs on the left are not guaranteed non-duplicate, whereas the Mythic Plus packs are, and the Mythic Plus packs will guarantee that you get either a Mythic or a Masterpiece. So focus on these. Find a pack that has Mythics that you think is really strong, and just wait for that to keep coming into rotation and buy that. Preferably of the most recent set, so that the cards that you're getting are going to stay in rotation for as long as possible. This is a great way to collect Mythics and Masterpieces alike, so it's a very valuable resource. That really covers everything that I wanted to go over in this video. If you have any other questions, go ahead and leave a comment, or if you're within my coalition, you can go ahead and just tag me at Nalthazar in our group chat. I should add, if you're a person who is coalitionless and you are watching this video, don't worry, it's actually really easy to get into coalitions in this game, so all you really need to do is go to the D3Go forums, go to the Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest section. Your best bet is to try and find a coalition that has subsidiary a coalition that has subsidiary coalitions that they use to, if you will, like farm newer players so that they can boost up their ranks. Pretty much all of the top 10 coalitions are constantly looking for new blood, so it's not too hard to get there. Just find a coalition, hopefully they'll accept you, and then work your way on up. To give you an idea, I was playing for about a month and a half when I got into the MTG Goldfish group. Fantastic group. I I'm biased, so I think they're the best group. But anywho, it took me a month and a half of playing to find them, and then when I found them, I submitted an application. I got in instantly, and then I was in for, I want to say 1 week, and then I made it into the top 10 group because I scored high enough. So with that, I hope all of this information is useful to you. I hope you're enjoying the game, and like I said, ask any questions, comments. See you in the next one.